Hey folks, Relic Delta, am I right? Um, we just got our first sheet of information after the initial wave of information, and we did just get our second beta client. I have not been able to test anything on the second beta client just yet. Literally, I got out of work, I read, I took some notes, I bothered Meathead for about 2 hours and asked him a bunch of questions. And I know that other people have shared some of the information that we were allowed to share. But I specifically asked these questions, and I don't know if anybody else has this information to get clarity on a few situations. I am going to give my take so far, but again, this is before doing any testing. I am aware that Fatal has done some testing. He's seen some results with the current client. But we're going to talk all about that after the break. So. All right. So, just a quick idea so that we understand in the next round of testing, GAC Omicrons are going to be active for us in the GCs. So we can kind of test closer to GAC conditions. And the GC enemies are going to have 50% increased stats. And that's because GC enemies don't normally have mods. So this is going to give a closer degree of realism to an actual character fighting, which is great. That's super helpful. Again, I have done no testing yet. I plan to test later tonight. I plan to test in the morning. We've seen some pretty good results that some people are happy with in very select fights. A few other things. Conquest, we have some clarity. Easy Conquest will have no relic levels, so this system will not affect Easy Conquest. Normal Conquest, Sector 1 will be no relics. Sector 1 and 2 will be no relics. Sector 3 will be Relic 1. Sector 4 will be Relic 2. Sector 5 will be Relic 3. In Hard Conquest, Sector 1 will be Relic 4, and Sectors 2 through 5 will be Relic 5. Um, I do want to clarify something there. I did ask a question about Conquest, specifically the idea of higher relic characters and feat simulation and being able to um, cheese feats, and the worry that players who have high relic characters only will no longer be able to do things in Conquest towards getting red box. And I was told that when Relic Delta is added to Conquest, and it will not be added in the next sector or the next season, so the Stranger Conquest will not have Relic Delta attached to it at all. When Relic Delta is added to Conquest, we will make sure that the overall player experience is benefited. There are no specifics in relation to the feat situation, but they are aware of the situation, and they are going to make sure that that is not punished for players. I don't have any context outside of that, unfortunately. Um, they did hear that this system would be easier to bear if relic material acquisition was a little bit easier. And the current stance is that while um, they don't have any details to share, they are planning to give us more relic materials overall. I do not know what that means, obviously, because this is all new to us. Before I get into the actual combat changes, there are a couple information seeking questions that I did ask, and I do want to share the answers to the things that I was allowed to share answers to. So I asked about GCs, and I asked about assault battles. And I was told that this affects every battle in the game eventually. The only mode excluded at launch is Conquest, because they do not want to change or reward progress expectations in the middle of a Conquest arc. So that, to me, I mean, we don't have a date, but that does kind of say to me that this will probably release in the next, Maz, and then the Stranger. They said it won't be part of Stranger, so it'll release in the next 4 months, somewhere in there. We don't know what that means. That could mean that assault battles are all R0, and if you have relic characters, you will do it easier. Or it could mean that they have actual relic levels and it's going to be harder. I appreciate that we got the answer here, but I don't have any clarity on if this will be a negative effect or not. I did ask about Jedi Master Luke. My question was, currently JML inherited teachings granted skill is going to be severely negatively affected by this change, as the delta is affected by the character doing the attack. But using it on JML does not advance his ultimate. Is there any plans to address these niche type situations? The answer that I received was, we do not currently have plans to add special cases to the system. In the case of Jedi Master Luke, there are potential changes that could be made in the data. And then they used my own account as an example. My JML is R8. My Jedi Knight Luke, who is always attached to JML for the most part, is Relic 9. So by funneling all of my assists to Jedi Knight Luke, I actually benefit from the change by getting an increased damage differential. Is that the case for everybody? No. But this tells me that while they have no plans to do it right now, that they are open to the understanding that it is a possibility. And that last part, they did not say to me. That is me just reading between the lines. I did say this earlier, but I did want it confirmed. Below Relic 1 is all treated as Relic 0, and that is confirmed as yes. Another interesting one that I had was, damage reflection in Conquest, is this self-damage? And the answer I received is that reflected damage is caused by the unit receiving and then reflecting damage. So in Conquest, the GR modifier will be less impactful for the PvE Conquest units if you are a higher relic level. Though, note that you dealing more damage from being a higher relic level will increase the base value of the reflected damage before Relic Delta modifies it. I am assuming that this is also the case for like Tarful, who has damage like that, and most likely for Datacrons. I know that Quigold's Datacron right now has reflected damage, but those are things that we can check through .gg to kind of confirm where the damage is coming from. So those are the questions that I have given. I did ask a follow-up question to question 1 that had to do with assault battles and concerns over if relic levels above R0 are added. I did not get an answer to that yet. I don't know if I will get an answer to it, but the question was asked. Now on to the damage calculations. It's important here to note that instead of a spread of 4 relics, there is now a spread of 5 relic levels. And it is less oppressive than before at the bottom end. And I don't know if it's more, it's rough at the top end at a 5 relic difference. We'll talk about what I believe when it comes to that after we go over the numbers. But I am going to pull them up here in my own little fancy graphic. Meathead made one, but I want to be fancier than him. So the Relic 5 level difference, there was no initial test. It is going to have a 66% reduced damage. Now, before at Relic 4, it was 95% reduced damage. So this is a big reduction at a higher level. The Relic 4 difference will be a negative 50%. The Relic 3 difference will be a negative 33%. The negative 2 difference will be negative 17%. And the negative 1 difference will be 10%. Damage reduction. On the top end, in reverse, again, it's still less oppressive at the bottom, a little bit more oppressive at the top. If you have a 1 level increase over your opponent, you will do 10% more damage. 2 levels, you will do 20% more damage. 3 levels, you will do 50% more damage, and that was formerly 75% more damage. At Relic 4, you will do 100% more damage. I know that people have seen this number so far. I do want to stress that in the notes that we were told we can share, it was noted that they are aware that this number is actually higher than before, that they are not being tone deaf in doing this right now. They are doing that to attach it specifically to that negative 50% damage as an inverse, and just seeing how that works. And then at the 5 relic difference, it is a 200% increase in damage. And that seems super oppressive, but we're talking about a relic 4 team fighting a relic 9 team. Relic 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, so a relic 4 team fighting a relic 9 team. That is a incredibly uncommon situation. I don't know any counters that work that way, right? Or a relic 0 team facing a relic 5 team. So I kind of want to ignore the relic 5 difference as an overall thing, but I do understand there are some niche situations where most of your team is relic 8, but you just got a new guy up and he's relic 2 and he's still helpful to your team. Like, I get that situation happens, but I think the 5 relic difference thing is not going to be as meaningful as the 4 relics, right? Or the 3 relics or the 2. So I almost do want to ignore that 5 relic difference as being too big of a deal. I do want to also stress here that CG did provide us with some other numbers. Essentially, they looked at every single GAC battle that has happened in the last 30 days, and they provided us the percentage of battles based on overall relic levels. So overall average relic levels and relic difference. Now, I do want to use and stress the example here that, or the idea here, that these are averages, right? They are not a per character thing. And I know that would be very hard for them to provide to us. It would be very difficult. But when it comes to the average level of a squad in GAC versus the average level of a squad in GAC, right? And it's actually surprising what it looks like, right? And that's right here. And again, this was in the information we were told that we can share. In instances of the average level being 5 relic levels below, we see a 0.01%, right? And that's actually, this is rounded, it's 0.0143% of all GAC battles. In the instance of 4 relic levels below, it is a 0.07% chance of seeing that battle so far. At 3 relic levels below, it is a 0.21% chance. At 2 relic levels below, it is a 1% chance. And at 1 relic level below, it is 1.8% chance. So that currently is a 3.1% chance. It's actually, I think, because of the rounding, it's like 3.8, but the sums are kind of weird with how I did this here. But they told us it is roughly a 3.8%. Some of that might be made up of like below 0, but above 1. I'm not 100% sure there, like the differentials in there, which is why this doesn't add up correctly. But essentially what that means is that when it comes to GAC, and I'm assuming it's very similar in TW, but when it comes to GAC, what I've noticed in the community is that a lot of people are really focusing on that top level and treating it like that is where most battles exist. And that's not true at all. And that can be frustrating as someone who really does try to be objective. To kind of see everybody talking about fringe cases, but not having the data behind it to support that. And I get it, right? That's kind of CG's fault for not giving the players that data up front, but they have provided it to us now. Um, Interestingly, before I left work, there was a post on Reddit talking about the change and showing Meathead's graphic, which was, again, it was approved, and saying, like, oh, exactly what we expected. They lowered it. Like, this is a conspiracy. And I did reply, and it was dumb of me. I shouldn't have replied. It was so stupid. And what I had said in my reply was just like, yeah, it's obviously they were going to lower the numbers. That made sense. This was a beta test. They picked some numbers. They lowered them based on our feedback. We can be conspiracy theorists, or we can just accept that this is the first day, the first change in a beta, and things were obviously going to change, right? It's almost like these people were going to be only happy if it increased, which is kind of silly. And I got severely downvoted and called a CG shill, and a bunch of comments were deleted that were probably much meaner than calling me a CG shill, which is frustrating. And I will probably never comment on Reddit again. And actually thought about deleting my Reddit account today and deleting all of my post history. Here's my thoughts on the system so far. I think that CG has hurt us in a lot of ways, and this update being the first update out of who knows how many is promising. And I do think that overall there is a lot of good stuff here. I do still think that the numbers are too oppressive to the community. I think that where I want to see this system, and this is what I have stressed to them and in my other video, was that if this system has to exist, right? I agree with Scribe that this system shouldn't exist. Marvel Strike Force has Overpower. Overpower, I think, is even more oppressive, and they lost a lot of players. And now they're walking back that change and saying, wait a second, we're going to turn it off in a bunch of game modes because we've learned our lessons. And I know this is not exactly the same system, but it's a similar system, and it's kind of like, guys, read the room of looking at this. So I'm saying that while I do not think this system needs to exist, and while I do acknowledge that there clearly is a problem that needs to be solved, and I don't know what that problem is, so it's hard for me to solve it. And I know a lot of people on Discord have tried to solve the problem. They've said, oh, just increase mastery and just do this and just fix matchmaking and it'll be fine. I don't know the problem. You don't know the problem. There could be something being set up. I don't know. There could be something in calculations, in monetization. I have no idea. But there's clearly a problem. So in the situation where this system has to exist, I believe where I want to see it is, and we're going to use easy numbers. Let's say I have a hard counter, and in equal relics and equal modding, that hard counter will win 100% of the time. I would like to see this system make it so that one relic level difference might drop the counter down a little bit to 95%. You're going to mostly win. Maybe you're going to lose sometimes. The 2 relic level difference might drop that down to like an 85 to 90% counter. Okay, a 3 relic level difference might drop this down a little bit more. And then a 5 relic level difference in the situation of a 100% hard counter right now might make this a 50-50 battle. That's kind of where I want to see this. I think one of the big problems, and my Jedi Master Luke and Jedi Knight Luke example that they gave to me is actually one of the big problems, is there are going to be situations where a team is almost all R8, and you get this new shiny character, this new marquee character comes out, and you're like, man, this new marquee character is so awesome. maybe I'm not gonna fully whale because I'm not rich, but I want to put some crystals in and spend $20 and get him to Relic 3 and to 5 stars, and I want to bring him into GAC, and I know it's not the smartest thing, but I want to bring him in. And now you bring him into battle, and the first AoE before he even gets a turn, that character gets wiped because he's Relic 3 and the opponent is Relic 9, right? I understand that that character should be squishier, but it really feels bad when that character just dies. And that I feel like is what kind of sucks a little bit about this system right now. Is it puts those situations where you want to use your shiny new toy, and it throws them out the window a little bit. And that can be really frustrating to people who are not mega whales. I am happier with this. I'm not happy yet. I am happier. I think using their numbers, if we're now in a negotiation, right? So if we're using their numbers and we are negotiating, I think where I would, I said this in my last video, I would like to see it as like a 5% increase, 5, 10, 15, 20, and now 25%. And then the back end on defense, it being half of that, so 2.5, 5, 7.5, 10, now 12.5. And that can be inverse, whatever the numbers are for the inverse. That's what I want. That's where I would be happy. But I think where I would tolerate this system without being overly frustrated is if the relic difference at relic 4 or at 4 relic levels, so negative 50% defense, not deep. When I say defense, I mean damage dealt. So negative 50% damage dealt and 100% damage increase. I think that if we pull that out to the 5 level and we stretch out these a little bit more, and I don't have the exact numbers or the exact formula that they used, but now let's say it's, for damage dealt, it is 10%, 20%, 35%, 50%, 100%. And then like 10%, 20%, 40%, 10, 20, 10%, 20%, 30, 45, 50. I don't know. I don't know why this is not adding up in my head. Whatever it is, 10, 20, 30. Oh yeah, 10, 20, 30, 50, 100. And then here would be like 10, 15, 25, 35, 50 on this back end. I think there I could tolerate it. I think their players are not going to be as angry. You're always, when you do a change like this, you're always going to have people quit. But when you make it so that players feel like, hey, they still have a chance, and hey, this is still kind of fair to me, the majority of people will give it a chance, and everyone else will kind of get over it. I do want to bring up one more thing before we end, though. Scribe did a poll on his Discord yesterday, and then so Arnold did a poll, or Kadar did a poll on Arnold's server, and I did a poll on my server. And I got a lot of answers on my server, and I just kind of want to look at that for a second, because I found this really interesting, and I had a great conversation with Nooch about this yesterday. The poll question was, please take a moment to react accordingly. I'm happy with Relic Delta as currently explained. I'd be happy with Relic Delta if the scaling were reduced to an appropriate level. I get that some type of new progression system needs to occur, and I'd prefer a different similar system, even if it also increased monetization. I am not happy with Relic Delta, and I am unlikely to be happy with any degree of Relic Delta system. 11 people said they were happy. 152 people said that if the scaling were reduced, they'd be fine. 322 said they don't like this progression system, they'd be happy with something else. And 595 people said they are not happy with Relic Delta and they would be unhappy with any other system. I actually think that that's a problem. This is a game that does need to earn money, and this is a game that does need to progress. And when I look at those almost 600 people, I just wonder, like, do you want to stay in this time warp of the game never evolving? And those types of players do frustrate me. Because the game always does have to evolve, and CG does have to try new things. I find the 322 people that said they get that a new progression system needs to occur and I'd prefer a similar system, I find that answer to be far more meaningful and reasonable. And I want people to think about that, right? My final thought again, as people over these days, I've had a lot of support, and I appreciate those people who have given me those words of support and have reached out and messaged me and said, hey, I appreciate what you're doing, and I know that this is really rough. I super appreciate you, because, you know, for every person that does that, I get like the, oh, you're sucking CG's dick and you're a CG shill comment. I am a player of this game first. I don't even consider myself a content creator. I fell into content creating. It just sort of happened that I got into content creating. I was doing math for myself in fancy spreadsheets, and one day I said, you know what, I'm going to start sharing these things. And then I started sharing them more actively. And then I jumped on camera and said, you know what, I'm having fun. And I do have so much fun. And if this game were shut down tomorrow, I would go back to my normal life and be happy. I almost definitely would not jump into another game and find a content creation route, because that isn't the route for me. I just enjoy helping people. When I look at this beta, I look at it as a problem that needs to be solved. And I want to solve that problem. The CG hasn't really told me what that problem is. They haven't told any of us. I want to solve the problem. I am not telling you to be happy. I'm telling you to be reasonable. I'm not telling you to not be angry. I'm telling you to allow us to try and help them figure this out so that we can be equitable. I'm not telling you that I am on their side, and I am not telling you that I am on your side. I am telling you that I am on the side of trying to make this game the best game that it possibly can be, because I enjoy the game a lot. And I will fight for the game to continue to go on, and I will fight for the game to continue to be fun and enjoyable to the majority of players. I will not fight for the bottom line. And I will not fight for the player who shuts down any type of change. I'm here to make this work and to do my best. And for those of us who are here really sharing and putting in our time and our effort to do that, just treat us like humans. That's it. Most of you have been great, though. Seriously, most of you have been awesome. Keep talking about it. Keep giving your opinions. Keep sharing it on my Discord, on Scribe's Discord, on all of the Discords, what your opinions are. Because I read a lot of it. And I do take the things that make sense and I add them to my opinions, and they help inform me. So with that said, guys, peace out. Have a great rest of your night.